So I never thought I'd be sharing this story, but after scrolling through this subreddit for years, I figured it was time to contribute my own wild ride. Buckle up, because this one's a doozy. 3 years ago, I was graduating from Boston University with my computer science degree. Picture the scene, cap and gown, proud parents snapping photos, that whole Hallmark moment. I was standing with my boyfriend Ethan, who I'd been with since freshman year. We had one of those college relationships everyone envied. Study dates at Pavement Coffee, weekend trips to Cape Cod, the works. I thought we were solid, like build a future together solid. We'd already talked about moving to the same city after graduation, maybe even getting a place together. I was crushing job interviews with tech companies, and Ethan was set with a prestigious scholarship that covered most of his tuition. So there we are at graduation, surrounded by friends and family, when Ethan clinks his champagne glass. I'm thinking he's about to make some sweet toast about our future. Instead, this dude decides it's the perfect moment to confess, in front of everyone, that he'd been cheating on me with my roommate Jessica for the past year. But wait, it gets better. His excuse? Jessica was on the scholarship committee and he needed her influence to secure his funding. Apparently, sleeping with her was just a strategic career move. I stood there in shock while our friends gasped. My parents looked like they wanted to murder him on the spot. Then Ethan has the audacity to smile and say, "But babe, that's all behind us now that we're graduating. I only did it for us and our future." For us? For us? I didn't even think. I just emptied my entire glass of champagne right over his head, ruining that nice rented graduation gown. The look on his face was priceless, like a wet cat who couldn't believe someone would actually stand up to him. I simply said, "Congratulations on your degree, Ethan. Good luck paying for it," and walked away. The next day, still shaking with rage, I marched into the dean's office and reported both of them. Turned out this was a major ethics violation. The university launched an investigation, and within 2 weeks, they revoked Ethan's scholarship. Jessica got removed from the committee and put on academic probation. Here's where it gets interesting. Ethan had been counting on that scholarship money to cover his final payments. Without it, he couldn't afford to officially complete his degree. The university wouldn't release his credentials until his account was settled, which meant no degree to show potential employers, even though he'd completed all the coursework. Meanwhile, I accepted a junior developer position at a tech firm in New York City. The pay wasn't amazing, but the experience was golden, and I was just happy to be putting Boston, and Ethan, in my rearview mirror. I crashed on my cousin's couch in Brooklyn for 2 months while I saved for my own place, working 60-hour weeks, and building my skills. About a month after graduation, I got a text from Ethan. This guy had the nerve to ask if I could loan him $5,000 to cover his outstanding university balance. Said he was desperate and couldn't get hired anywhere without his official degree. He even threw in some garbage about how he really did love me, and the cheating was just business. I left him on red for 3 days while I thought about it. Part of me, a very small, forgiving part, considered helping him. Then I remembered how he humiliated me in front of everyone I cared about, how he planned and calculated his betrayal for months, how he showed zero remorse until it affected him. So I texted back, "New phone, who dis?" and blocked his number. That was 3 years ago. Today, I'm a senior security engineer at one of the top tech firms in Manhattan. Last year, I launched a side cybersecurity startup with 2 colleagues that's already turning a profit. I have a sweet apartment in Chelsea, amazing friends, and enough disposable income to take real vacations. Just got back from 2 weeks in Japan. As for Ethan, through mutual friends, I heard he's delivering pizzas for Domino's back in his hometown. Apparently, he tells anyone who'll listen about how his psycho ex ruined his life and stole his future. Poor baby face with tears of joy. The best part? Last month, I got headhunted by a major tech corporation for a position that would nearly double my salary. The recruiter mentioned they were impressed by my ethical leadership after hearing about the scholarship incident from a former professor who recommended me. Turns out, standing up for yourself can pay off in ways you never expect. Updated. So many of you asked for more details in the comments, and since I'm procrastinating on a project deadline, don't tell my boss, LOL, I figured I'd spill the rest of the tea. Some of you wanted to know more about Jessica, my ex-roommate. We'd been randomly assigned freshman year and actually got along great at first. She was pre-law, super organized, and always dressed like she was headed to a corporate interview. I was more of a rolling out of bed 5 minutes before class in yesterday's hoodie type of girl. Somehow it worked. Jessica was the one who introduced me to Ethan at a frat party. She knew him from some honor society they were both in. The irony, right? At the time, I thought she was being a great friend. Looking back, I wonder if she already had her eyes on him and was just feeling me out as competition. After I found out about their betrayal, I discovered they had been hooking up in our shared apartment when I had late classes. In my bed sometimes? Seriously, who does that? One of our other roommates finally confessed that she'd caught them multiple times but was too afraid of conflict to tell me. College drama, am I right? After the graduation disaster, Jessica tried to reach out and apologize. She sent this super long email about how she'd fallen for Ethan against her better judgment and how these things just happen sometimes. She even had the nerve to say she hoped we could move past this one day and be friends again. I replied, with a single sentence, "I hope that scholarship committee looks good on your resume." Never heard from her again. Now, about the aftermath with the university, it was intense. When I reported them, I honestly didn't know what would happen. I just knew I couldn't let them get away with it. The dean called me in for several meetings where I had to recount everything. They interviewed other students, reviewed email exchanges between Jessica and Ethan, and even found texts where they explicitly discussed using their relationship to influence the scholarship decision. The university took it surprisingly seriously. Turns out, scholarship fraud is a big deal. They have all these ethics policies that nobody reads but everyone has to sign. Jessica's family tried to fight the academic probation, claiming there was no proof their daughter had actually influenced the committee. But the evidence was pretty damning. Some of you asked if I faced any backlash for reporting them. Real talk, yes. Some mutual friends thought I was being vindictive and should have handled it privately. A few people from Ethan's fraternity started a rumor that I was just jealous because Jessica was prettier. Eye roll. But most people were supportive, especially when they heard the full story. The $5,000 request from Ethan wasn't his only attempt to contact me. About 6 months after I moved to New York, he showed up at my workplace. I have no idea how he found out where I worked, probably through social media or mutual friends. He was waiting outside when I left the office, looking all disheveled and desperate. He tried to give me this speech about how he'd hit rock bottom and realized what he'd thrown away. Said he couldn't find a decent job without his degree, had moved back in with his parents, and was drowning in credit card debt. Then came the kicker. He wasn't just asking for money anymore. He suggested we get back together, saying he'd always loved me and we could start fresh. I laughed so hard a coworker thought I was having some kind of breakdown. When I finally caught my breath, I told Ethan that I wouldn't get back together with him if he was the last man on earth and had the cure for cancer. His face turned this interesting shade of purple, and he started raising his voice about how I owed him a chance after destroying his life. That's when 2 of my male coworkers, bless them, noticed the commotion and came over. They didn't even know what was happening, but they stood beside me and asked if everything was okay. Ethan took one look at them and backed down immediately. Classic bully behavior, tough only when they think you're alone. After that incident, I filed for a restraining order. Not because I was afraid of him, but because I wanted it on record that his behavior was crossing lines. The judge granted a temporary one, and Ethan was served papers. He never violated it, and I never saw him in person again. Let's fast forward to my career glow-up because that's the fun part anyway. My first year in New York was rough. Tech is still very much a boys' club, and being one of 3 women on a team of 30 developers came with all the challenges you'd expect. I got talked over in meetings, had my ideas attributed to male colleagues, and was asked to take notes in team sessions despite being the same rank as everyone else. But I'd already dealt with Ethan's betrayal, so corporate microaggressions? Please. I started documenting everything, building allies among the few other women in the company, and most importantly, becoming so good at my job, they couldn't ignore me. I specialized in cybersecurity because it was fascinating, and because the skill gap in that area is huge. Companies are desperate for qualified security engineers. By my second year, I was leading security audits for major clients. By year 3, I was presenting at conferences and building a name for myself in the industry. That's when 2 colleagues and I noticed a gap in the market for small business cybersecurity solutions. Most products were either designed for individual consumers or massive corporations, leaving medium-sized businesses vulnerable. We started our startup on nights and weekends, bootstrapping everything ourselves. We built a security suite that was affordable, user-friendly, and specifically tailored to businesses with 50 to 100 employees. Within 6 months, we had our first paying clients. Now, a year later, we're turning enough profit that I'm considering going full-time with it. The best part about success isn't the money, though let's be real, that's pretty sweet. It's the confidence that comes from knowing I built something valuable on my own terms. No one gave me a shortcut or an unfair advantage. No one can take credit for what I've accomplished. Sometimes I think about how different my life would be if Ethan hadn't revealed his true colors at graduation. If he'd kept his mouth shut, maybe we would have moved in together. Maybe I would have supported him while he built his career, putting my own ambitions on the back burner. Maybe I would have wasted years on someone who saw me as a convenience rather than a partner. In a weird way, his public betrayal was the best thing that could have happened to me. It was like ripping off a Band-Aid, painful in the moment, but quick and clean. No lingering what-ifs or second chances. Just a clear before and after, with me emerging stronger on the other side. Oh, and one last funny update. Remember the recruiters who reached out about that amazing new job opportunity? Turns out the company they're recruiting for just acquired the startup where Jessica has been working for the past year. If I take the position, there's a chance I could end up being her boss's boss. Life really does come full circle sometimes, doesn't it? Face with tears of joy final update. Y'all, the response to my story has been wild. My phone's been blowing up all day with notifications. I never expected this post to get so much attention, but I guess everyone loves a good karma story. Some of you have been asking for an update on the job situation with Jessica's company. Well, I went for the interview last week, and it was intense. 6 hours of technical questions, system design challenges, and culture fit conversations. Yesterday, they called with an offer that honestly made my jaw drop. We're talking serious. Money, equity, and the chance to build my own security team from scratch. And yes, I took it. I start next month. As for Jessica, plot twist. She actually left the company 2 months ago. Apparently, she had some disagreements with management, according to my soon-to-be colleague who spilled the tea during my office tour. So no awkward boss of my ex-friend scenario after all. Kinda disappointed, not gonna lie. That would have made for an epic update. The startup is still going strong too. My partners and I decided I'll step back to an advisory role while I take on this new position. The extra income will actually help us fund our next phase of development without taking outside investment. Sometimes I think about messaging Ethan just to see where he's at now, but then I remember, living well really is the best revenge. I don't need to know what he's doing, and I certainly don't need him to know how great I'm doing. For everyone in the comments who's going through something similar, whether it's betrayal, career setbacks, or just feeling stuck, hang in there. 3 years ago, I was crying on my cousin's couch, eating ramen for dinner 5 nights a week, and wondering if I'd made a huge mistake. Now I'm here. Your chapter isn't finished yet either. Thanks for all the awards and supportive comments. This community is awesome. Peace sign.